Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled Utility Service Board meeting. It's September 12th. And our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do you have a motion for approval?
Actually, I have an edit.
That's fine.
Okay.
Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
And any questions or comments about the minutes?
Okay.
Amanda?
So on page 4, the subcommittee reports, I think it was noted there were 6 ayes, but I think it was 5 ayes and 1 nay. The motion still carried, but I think it just needs to reflect that. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess on page 4, okay, there's different page 4s. I saw it on a different place. Yes, that's correct.
For the first order of business, the changes to section 14 for maintenance of fire lines?
No, for
No.
the subcommittee reports, was mine not numbered the same
No.
as you
Yeah,
guys?
so there's this
It was
one, and then
correct.
there's this
2.
one.
Yeah.
There's like 2 orders of business it shows.
I
We had
see.
2
My
orders of
mistake.
business
My
at the
mistake, everybody.
subcommittee meeting.
My apologies.
No problem.
It's correct.
Any other comments or questions about the minutes from the previous meeting? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next up, we have approval of the claims. We have 4 different claims tonight. The first are regular claims totaling $620,460.48. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved?
Second.
And
A discussion?
yes, and do we have any questions about the claims tonight?
Yeah, I had a question on Jacoby Carbons. Vic, I'm assuming that's some of the, perhaps the additional cost we've got with filtering the carbon for the water that we're trying to get the quality up a little bit over the past couple of weeks.
We feed activated carbon all the time in the
Yeah.
summertime to control DVPs. And it also helps some with the taste and odor. We just had an excursion that was more than we could treat right now.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job explaining how the department's doing its best to handle that over the last couple of weeks. Because my point was that if we're making extra efforts, this may not be an extra effort, it may be just standard, but if we're making extra efforts, extra expenditures to help the quality of taste and smell, then that's a good thing for the public to know.
I think so too, yeah. We started feeding it in 2017 as part of trying to control disinfection byproducts more effectively. And we had a side benefit of taking out the taste and odor compounds. It used to be the water tasted like a lake basically all summer long, and we got hundreds and hundreds of complaints. So it's better, but these last 2 summers, we've had some unusual circumstances, and it's, yeah.
I think things have improved over the last couple of days with the rain we've had over the last week, so that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Any other questions about the claims? I have one on the very last page, well, the page 9 and 10, the Wood Environmental Infrastructure Solutions. Can someone please explain the rationale about spreading this cost across all utilities rather than just putting the cost on stormwater, where I think the impact would be, or where the relationship to the street sweeping is primarily found?
I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to that, but my guess is we just applied an allocation that we use for similar services, but we can go back and make sure that that's the case and correct anything going forward if we need to.
Okay. Yeah, if we are able to correct where those funds come from after we approve the claim, I'm okay with moving forward as is.
We most certainly can.
If it needs to be
Yeah,
corrected.
correct.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
if you can let us know why that is. Maybe I missed the last one if there had been a previous claim, and I always try to look across the utilities and where the money's being spent.
Fair enough.
Great, thanks. Any other questions about the claims? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Great. Next up, utility bills totaling $32,158.97. Any questions? Oh, do we have a motion for the utility bills, please?
So moved?
And any questions about the utility bills? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, wire transfers totaling $478,343.19. Do we have a motion for approval of wire transfers, fees, and payroll for this month?
So moved?
Any questions about wire transfers? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And finally, the last type of claims is our customer refunds. Do we have a motion for approval of the customer refunds?
So moved?
And any questions about these customer refunds? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next up, we have the consent agenda for items totaling $25,886.00. Vic Kelson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to present tonight's consent agenda. Item A is to Arcadis US for $14,000. It's the First Amendment to include a bid alternative for the HVAC system improvements at Monroe. So the new not to exceed is $169,545. Item B is to Orkin Pest Control for $2,899 for pest control services at Monroe. Item C is $4,987 to Electric Plus for LED light installations at Monroe. And then the last item is to Jewel and Shapiro for $4,000 of consultation services. Would any of the board members like to hear any of these items separately? Yes.
Just a question about the on-base software. I'm just not familiar with what this is, and I may have missed it at a previous meeting. Are we implementing a new scanning?
It's a document management system. We've been using it for quite a while. Things are stacking up because the person that we had trained to scan and index documents left the department. So we're getting assistance to get caught up.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thanks, Vic.
Can I ask a question on that too, then? Will there be multiple people that know how to use it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
That's part of the consultation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So would any of the board members like to hear any of these separately? Hearing none, if there's no opposition, the consent agenda is approved as recommended by staff. Hearing no opposition, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jane Fleeg to present on a request for request for approval of an agreement with American Structure Point, the Fullerton Pike Phase 3 additional services not to exceed $35,700.
That's correct. Jane Fleeg for the record. I'm asking for an approval of an agreement for consulting services with American Structure Point. They performed the design of our relocation of water main relocations that would be required for Fullerton Pike Phase 3. They completed that design last year. At the time, we assumed that we would be doing this in-house with our own staff, so we didn't have a contract information book, we didn't have contract bid documents, anything like that. Now that we've had some turnover and are kind of trying to reorganize our staff and our crews, we've determined that it'd be better to go ahead and get this put out on the street for a bid, to have a contractor do it for us. They can do it quicker, and there's going to be a time limit in terms of getting our relocations done in advance of the road construction. So we expect our notice to proceed for that, for the relocations, to be the end of this year or beginning of next year. So we're preparing bid documents to put this out to bid. So we're looking at adding construction, or adding these services to American Structure Point. It's a brand-new contract because we had completed the previous one. This will allow them to make just a few design changes, add traffic maintenance plans, prepare our bid documents, and then perform bid assistance once we've received the bids. So, any questions?
Okay, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the request for approval of agreement with American Structure Point is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a request for approval of an agreement with Presidio Networked Solutions Group for Service Center Board Room upgrades not to exceed $61,715.37. Vic Kelson.
Good evening. This is paying for all of the equipment that's been added to the boardroom and will be completed in the near future. This contract was originally started through the ITS, Information Technology Systems Department. At the time, it was not known what the final price would be, and this is the final price. So we're bringing it to you now. We had projected around $60,000 when we talked about it at the beginning of the project.
Any questions for Vic?
We're still waiting for the new TV for back here. That's why we're not fully operational yet.
And that's, I just again, kind of like for the record of why we're doing this. I mean, again, we're meeting in person again. So I know a lot of this was precipitated in part because of, updates that were needed because of the COVID protocols. But how are we intending to use this equipment now?
So the reason for the project really wasn't about the COVID protocols. The reason for the project was to enable us to do hybrid meetings, which the rest of the city departments are doing. So the city is, the new statute allows communities to do hybrid meetings where the public can attend remotely. Board members can also attend remotely on occasion if necessary. So it facilitates public participation and also enables board members who may be on travel to attend a meeting once in a while if they need to.
Great.
So that's the purpose of it, yes.
And a follow-up question as well. I know we're talking about, potentially building a new building. Is this CBU equipment? Does this belong to CBU that it would?
This is CBU equipment. We
Okay.
figured that out at the time, yeah.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Vic.
Good questions, thank you. Kurt?
Will the new setup require CAPS to still set up all their equipment, or can they plug into this?
They'll be able to plug into the new equipment to bring everything together. So Kirk had asked earlier about the new panels up there, that he asked if those are for HVAC. Those are actually directional microphones that eventually may make these obsolete. So we'll be able to, they can be programmed and so forth. So the other thing is we can use this room as a training room and for large group conferencing and all of those kinds of things as well.
Good, thank you.
Gene?
So you said we've got the one TV that's included in this. They're working on getting the other one. Is that what you're saying?
This set suffered infant mortality. When they hung it up, it wouldn't turn on. So we're waiting for corrective action to be taken on that.
Okay.
And there'll be another camera on top of that one as well.
Okay. And you said that the technology department for the city kind of started all of this. And so the work is basically mostly done,
Mostly
correct?
done, yep.
And so we're approving the contract now,
Yeah,
like
the final, this is
retroactively?
the final cost of doing the project.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to kind of clarify the sequence there,
Yeah.
so.
But the bill won't be paid until the TV's fixed then, right?
I understand that the bill will not be fully paid until the TV's
Okay.
fixed, yes.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, we need a motion for approval of this agreement with Presidio Network Solutions Group for an amount not to exceed, but probably equal to $61,715.37.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 7 is a request for approval of an agreement with Commonwealth Engineers Incorporated for design and permit assistance for new lift station construction not to exceed $359,930. Dan Hudson.
For the record, I'm Dan Hudson, the Capital Projects Manager for the City of Bloomington, and I'd like the board to consider a contract with Commonwealth to design 5 lift stations. This is a redesign of existing stations, 5 sanitary lift stations, and 10 lift stations to provide emergency backup power for. And that would be a total cost of $359,930. Any questions?
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes.
How many lift stations do we have approximately?
I think there's 47.
Okay.
I'm looking over there. I think there's 47. This is an extension of the.
Between all the different types? I mean,
Yeah,
okay, yes,
there's
sanitary.
there's
whatever.
several
Okay.
different types, but the study we had narrowed down 5 stations that really needed to be replaced.
Okay.
And so that's what we're doing. And we're also asking the consultant to help us try to get some federal funds through the state revolving plan to do this with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And those 47 lift stations are all sanitary. They're not,
Okay.
drinking water booster stations are separate.
Okay.
Yeah, these are sanitary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, one storm, yeah, sorry.
Do we have backup power at these 10 now, or
No,
not?
these do not. We only have backup power, I'm not sure, maybe 2. And these are all for, these are critical ones where they looked at where backup power would be needed. Be nice to do all 47, but no, we're going to do 10 right now.
This is design only.
Design only. We're trying to get the projects, what they call shovel-ready, so we have the design and all the plans ready to go, so that would qualify us for the funding to do that. So we have to have them shovel-ready, and we have to be a city of a certain size and a certain income, and we qualify for that. We checked into that, so whether the money will be ready or not, we'll find out.
Where's that from? Where's the?
What's that?
Where's the, is it a matching grant or from some?
No, it's a state revolving funds, and
Okay.
it's not 100%, and I'm not sure what percent they're going to pay for. I think it's like 60%, and we will have to come up with a remainder.
The money originates in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act.
Okay,
There you go.
that one.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question, sorry. So are all of these 10, or the 5 sites and then the 10 additional, are they essentially the same? Besides getting the site ready, are they all
No,
different, or?
They're different. 2 of
Okay.
them are what we call can lift stations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really old lift station design that was like, it looked like a can they put
Mm-hmm.
in the ground. And those we really want to get rid of because they're rusting and they're unsafe. So we want to get rid of those now. And the other ones, there's multi-problems with them. Some of them are the capacity is not big enough. When we get a storm event, it wants to, overflow, or water will come into it. It's too low. So there's different problems with
But when they're
these.
replaced, would they be replaced with the same, like 5 that are all the same? I guess I've not had like a
Oh.
site visit to have in my mind.
No, they have to be unique.
okay, unique.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are certain standards. We're
Sure. Mm-hmm.
going to go with a wet well design, not a dry well design, and certain pumps, but each one has to have.
Its own individual
own
plan.
individual
Okay.
design.
I didn't know if this work for these 10 could be applicable to the next 37 at some point down the road.
I
So.
wish it could.
Okay.
No,
All
it
right.
can't.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, hold on. Let's see this through. One more question.
Sure.
So I saw Commonwealth just did a study. Have they completed that? They had 2 invoices this
They haven't
week?
quite completed. The study is done for the conclusion, but they're taking that study to another step to get all the forms and all the other reports necessary for this funding request.
Okay.
So that is the next step. And this will continue with that too.
And doing that work has positioned Commonwealth to do this work in an efficient and economical manner for us?
Yes, yeah. Since they did the study, they would be the best consultant to do the design at this point.
Good. Okay, then, so we need are there any other questions? I'm sorry.
No.
We need a motion for
Yes,
the
we
approval of this agreement with Commonwealth Engineers for design and permit assistance of new lift station construction not to exceed $359,930.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. All right, item 8, request for approval of agreement with Clark Dietz, stormwater review assistance not to exceed $150,000. Phil Peden.
Good evening, Phil Peden Engineering. Yes, this is with Clark Dietz for assistance for stormwater reviews. And if you don't know, I wanted to explain a little bit. For the engineering group back there, we do a lot of reviews for new site developments, new construction, apartments, commercial properties, residential neighborhoods. It takes up a lot of our time back there, making sure that the designs meet all our guidelines of standards and specifications. And so related to stormwater, we review large drainage reports with calculations pertaining to the detention design, stormwater quality for water treatment, inlet sizing, inlet capacity, inlet spacing, pipe sizing, pipe slope, pipe material, all those different aspects. And so it can be very time consuming, especially when you have a large project. So I was doing that, now I'm in the assistant director role, so until we get someone hired in that position, we wanted to have an engineer on call to help us with those reviews so we don't get too far behind and we can progress these projects through the review process in a timely fashion. So there's a large not to exceed with 150,000 just because that position's going to post for some time. We don't know what's going to happen, and so we went ahead and that is going to go to 2023. There is an error I wanted to make everyone aware on the contract says 2022 effective date, December 31st, 2022. That's supposed to be 2023. So that might make the price make more sense. Clark Dietz is very familiar with this type of work. They do it for other communities in Indiana, and feel like they'll be a good resource for us on this. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions for Phil?
Hi, Chris Wheeler, City Legal. With regards to that typographical error on the end date, that was corrected. The contractor was made aware of it. They agreed to it. That was the understanding of the parties. So the agreement that's being signed tonight in the signing packet is the one with the corrected date. The one that's in your packet that you're reviewing still has the old date. Just wanted to make sure you all understood that.
Thank you. Questions for Phil? All right, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the agreement with Clark Dietz for stormwater review assistance not to exceed $150,000, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And one more request, item 9, for an approval of an agreement with Wessler Engineering, a First Amendment to expand the scope of services for bar screen replacement at Monroe Water Treatment Plant. This First Amendment is for $106,000 for a new, not to exceed of $169,500. Dan Hudson, again.
Yeah, I'm Dan Hudson for the record, Capital Projects Manager for the City of Bloomington. Wessler Engineering did the original design for the replacement of the bar screens at the Monroe intake structure. And we're now have a contractor under contract to start this. And we're asking Wessler to do contract administration and construction inspection. And they're going to provide all the engineering requirements to do that for this contract. They're asking for $106,000 to do that. Any questions?
So doing what they're contracting to do, are those things that normally our internal staff would be able to do as that construction goes forward? Or is this just something that's better to farm out?
Personally, I think it's better to farm that out because they did the design, and so they're familiar more with what's required. But it really depends on how contracts are structured. Some contracts include, under the design, include the construction administration and inspection, and they're a little larger. Other designers like to have an addendum done until they see what's required after the contract has already been let.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Question, thank you. Anyone else? Questions? Okay. Do we have a motion for to approve this agreement with Westler Engineering for an amount, a new amount of $106,000 for a new not to exceed of $169,500?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, next up, we have old business. Any old business from the board? Old business from staff? New business from the board? Yes, Amanda?
I have a question to ask. Latrina has provided the board members with a contact list for all of us. Is there a contact list for you folks that's available to us? Because I've noticed, there's some people that are no longer here that I was able to contact on things, and it would be very helpful for us to have a listing with their office number and their email address. Thank you. It doesn't have to be everybody in the building, but the primary people that the board works with. I would appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Me too.
Excellent. Any other new business from the board? New business from staff? Subcommittee reports? Have we had any since the last meeting? I don't think so. Then staff reports.
Okay, the first thing I'd like to say is that in response to a couple of board members who asked about the proposal of looking into new facilities for CBU, I would like to invite all the board members to come to stay after the meeting on the 26th for a walkthrough of this facility, and then walk through the garage and up the hill as well to see the current circumstances here. And then we can all carpool down to Winston-Thomas to see how things are set up there and go through the site to get an idea so you can kind of visualize what we have in mind there. So I'd like to do that on the 26th after the board meeting, weather permitting. I think we can, it's not going to be getting cold too soon, so it ought to work pretty well. So if that doesn't work, we can do another date and try to work that out.
Thank you for following up on that. Is there any board members that may not be available that particular time? A couple, okay.
I'm going to be out of state.
Out of town.
Could we do a similar thing the following board meeting?
We could. Would the next meeting work better for anyone? Would that be a better time? We could do either one or both.
That meeting
That would
is
be,
It's Monday the 11th?
Tuesday, though, correct?
October,
It'd be Tuesday, the 11th.
October 10th, yeah, it's a Monday.
Be the 11th because the Indigenous Peoples' Day or whatever we call it here.
Oh,
It's
is
the
that,
10th.
that's
Yes.
right, it is. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
So it'd be Tuesday, the 11th.
Tuesday, the 11th? Would,
I'm not available on that
I have a standing
day.
meeting on the second Tuesday of every month.
okay, what if,
Could we do who's available to go that night, and then maybe some folks could do a second tour with
that
you?
would be fine,
Yeah.
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 I'd like to do it after hours,
Okay.
The reason for doing it after hours is that in the daytime, a lot of our vehicles are out. So to really get an idea of what it's like out there, you really have to go after work. So if we could do that at 5:30 or 6 on some other night. I can ask Latrina to put together a doodle poll, and we can just have people tell us what days work. Will that work? Would that work? I'm happy to do more than one.
But otherwise, we will do the one on the 26th.
We
following
will do the
meeting.
one on the
Okay.
26th after the meeting, yeah.
Okay. Great.
Amanda's
Super.
looking at me.
No, I'm probably, I'm just
Strategizing.
talking, because I'm trying to strategize if I could FaceTime with Megan or another board member while the tour is going on, I could still at least
Oh,
participate that way.
okay, we can do that
Yeah.
and then still do another tour. That'd be fine. That'd work
Yeah.
great. Okay. And since we're talking about tours, I've been remiss that I haven't gotten everyone to all the facilities yet. I know Megan's been to Monroe and Blucher Pool, but not to Dillman yet. We will be doing our big celebration at Dillman in October, and that's the 20 what? 27th, I think. We'll send you a note. But we'll be doing a celebration there. It'll be over lunchtime, and we'll have hot dogs and stuff. But we'll be able to do tours of the new facilities and new equipment that's been installed over there. The disc filter is really cool, but we'll be able to do that. But any board members who would like to take tours of our other facilities, please let me or Holly or Latrina know, and we can set up tours of whatever level of detail you wish for that.
If you do set up tours, will you let the rest of us know? And then, like, if we're able to join in
Sure.
to see it again?
Sure.
I think when you, I think I would have a lot more knowledge to see it a second time than I did the first tour. So, thank you.
That'll help make sense of things. And then the last item we kind of talked about a minute ago is the taste and odor situation. It seems to be improving. I know it's better at my house. We should see that passing through the system. What we are doing is, I think when I was talking to the council, I remarked that, once is a fluke and twice is a pattern. This is 2 years in a row we've had this happen. We believe it's associated with long stretches of sunny weather without any rain, and we've had, each of the last 2 years, we've had a stretch of 5 or 6 weeks. In August this year, September last year, where the algal counts got really high in the water. We are talking with partners at DNR and the Corps, and we're looking into the prospect that there might be some kind of technology we could deploy in the lake near the intake to try and help keep the algal counts at the intake from getting so high in the summertime. So we're starting that process now. So you may be seeing a contract for a study or for a pilot test or something like that coming up in the next months.
Thank you. Yes.
And I'm sure this will come up in that study, but is any of this blue algae that gets produced, is it a result of, let's just say man-made products, whether human products like, the gasoline from the boats or, whatever, oil from things? Or is it more something that's more of a naturally occurring thing?
It's a great question. If there would be no oxygen on Earth if it weren't for blue-green algae.
Okay.
So they're naturally occurring and have been around forever. And what happens, though, is that when you have high levels of nutrients, in most freshwater systems, phosphate is the limiting nutrient. But there is phosphate and other nutrients that are included that are in the sediments in the lake. And so if they are mixed in, or if you have a long period where there's a lot of algal growth and algae are dying and leaving chemicals in the water, or if there's just general trend towards more nutrients being in the water column, then you'll tend to get these bigger blooms. And that's the tendency that any reservoir is going to have. Lake Monroe is better than most, but it's still really important for us to be. And this is why we work with groups like Friends of Lake Monroe and the Lake Monroe Water Fund to work on things like watershed restoration projects, and just all of those things are dedicated towards the preservation of long-term raw water quality in the lake for both the environment and for drinking water.
Thank you.
But we've had unusually large blooms the last 2 years. The one recently was the largest one we've seen.
But to answer the question, it's a combination of both
Combination of both.
man-caused, anthropogenic, and natural sources of phosphorus, right?
That's right. Some of it's runoff from the watershed that's natural, and some of it's upstream runoff and runoff from human activities and septic tanks and all those kinds of things.
Thank you.
Bit of both.
Gene?
Well, I was going to ask about runoff containing fertilizer from, various agricultural fields or human activities. And do we have any gauge on how bad that part of this problem is? Like the external man-made sources of nutrients that go into the watershed?
So that's all part of the study that the Friends of Lake Monroe have been working on, the Section 319 study. We've been giving a lot of in-kind support for laboratory work. We also gave financial support on that project. They've been collecting a lot of that information.
Okay.
Now, Lake Monroe's watershed, 70% of it is forest. So that gives you some idea of where we might stand compared to some other reservoirs in the state. There's really not a lot of agriculture in the Lake Monroe watershed. Most of it's in Jackson County and Brown County, not so much in Monroe. But the Lake Monroe Water Fund is actually working with the farm organizations and the forestry organizations and all of them to have everybody at the table to talk about how we preserve the water quality in the lake.
Great. Thank you.
Question, Joe? I was just wondering, is this something that you think there could be a possible solution in place for next summer, or is this a longer-term fix than that?
I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Okay.
If we have a normal summer pattern, we have a line of thunderstorms goes through every 2 or 3 weeks all summer long. And those tend to keep, that we didn't have a single taste and odor complaint from 2017 to 2021. So prior to the last 2 years, we really didn't experience a long dry spell in the late summer like we have the last 2 years. So I would assume that it's probably going to happen again. But at this point, I don't know how far we are from having some kind of thing to try
Okay, thank
out
you.
there. But we are working on it.
So can I just make it explicit? I think what I hear you saying is that in terms of the technology that's available, the treatments that are available for this kind of water taste and odor, that CBU is using the best thing that you can do to treat this, and that the magnitude of the algal blooms is swamping out the ability to fully remove all the odor and taste issues.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes, we are, so what happened is that we used to get taste and odor complaints all summer long. I remember when I was in grad school, the water tasted like a lake all the time in the summertime, and people used to complain about it a lot here. When we started feeding activated carbon in 2017, we were able to take all of it out, or enough of it so that no one could taste it. But we've had these 2 events where it's gotten higher than we've been able to remove.
Yeah,
And an activated carbon filter on your faucet will probably get the rest of it. I have one in my refrigerator, and my ice cubes have continued to taste good pretty much. But you can, and there's a number of technologies. We could consider adding additional carbon filtration at the plant, which would be pretty expensive if we wanted to do that. We'd rather try to keep the algae from getting in there in the first place, because there are other issues that can come up with some species of blue-greens.
Thanks, Vic. I just wanted to make sure that that was explicit, because I think there's been a whole lot of misunderstanding amongst a number of the public, thinking that CBU isn't doing anything about it, or and rather than, this is now two years of discrete events related to the weather and to nutrient influx that just kind of goes beyond the ability to pull all that out.
Right. We just
Okay.
don't have that much equipment and that much carbon in our plant to handle it.
Thank you.
But it does all of this points up the importance of doing the work we're doing with with outside organizations to try and address the issue of the long-term water quality in the lake. So those efforts are really important to the future of our water supply.
Any other questions on this topic? Did you want to speak to the new schematic that you did? I wanted to thank you for doing that, first of all, but did you want to talk to it at all?
That's the new schematic of the proposed facility at Winston Thomas that you asked for a few weeks ago. So we wanted to make sure you had it. It's a nice map. It gives you an idea of how the facility would be laid out if we were able to build it down there. And I would like to keep those in hand when we go down there in a couple weeks.
Well, thank you again for making this, it helps me conceptualize what's being planned. Thank you.
Thanks to Holly and who made that map?
Daniel Frank.
Daniel Frank made the map, yeah.
Thank you both. All right, if that's all the staff reports.
That's all we have, yes.
Can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely.
Vic, I just wanted to check in on ongoing staffing issues, turnover. How are we doing at this point? Because I know there was administrative turnover, some of those positions are filled, and then, the frontline workers, I know there was a little bit of turnover there. You don't have to give me like exacts, but I'm just wondering how we're doing.
We continue to experience turnover, rank and file folks leaving for greener pastures. That continues to be an issue. And we are working on it as hard as we can. James Hall recently hired 2 laborers to fill 2 of the vacancies. We still have 4 vacancies there. As far as the assistant directors, we've filled all but 2, and one of them I have a request to hire posted with HR, so I should know this week about the other one, about that one, and we'll be continuing with interviews for the last one starting next week.
Thank you. Yeah,
But
that's,
we've also had, staff turnover in the engineering division, and Phil's been working on getting new hires there. We have a couple of vacancies in finance. So, if, professionals who are looking for fascinating jobs in the utilities field, please look at our website.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. So I just wonder, I heard on our contracts tonight that we approved, there were 3 that had to do with personnel that we couldn't do that here, that we had intended to have that done in-house. Do we anticipate continuing to seek out external support in the coming months?
We may be looking for external support for a couple of things in the next few months. The one contract that we had tonight that was really associated with the staff shortage was the Clark Dietz one. But still, we are needing more engineering support, especially when we start executing a project, and we've been using a lot of that. The previous Dillman project, the Greeley and Hansen managed that project all the way through, and they're continuing to work with us on it. So, yeah, it's an ongoing issue.
Thank you. And then a follow-up to that would be, is there, I don't know if this is possible, but could we shift our staff so we fill like several departments and then leave kind of the vacancies in one area where we would hire an outside team? I don't know if that's good practice or not, but,
I don't know if that's feasible, but we can look into it.
I just wondered.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is it possible for us to get an idea of how many people were down by department?
Yeah, I can get you a list.
Okay,
Yes.
that would be great.
Okay.
Any follow-ups? Okay. Petitions and communications from the public? Anyone here? No? From anyone else? Then we're just looking for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.